Hi there, how are
Hey,
you?
great. How are you?
Good. Okay, so everyone in the Facebook universe, we're going to get started right now. My name is Ameya Kulkarni. I'm an interventional cardiologist by training. I'm the chair of the Mid-Atlantic Permanente Cardiovascular Institute. And I have Dr. Michele Arthurs with me. You want to tell us a little bit about what you do with us?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I'm boarded in family medicine. I currently work at our Camp Springs Center, and I've been a part of our lifestyle medicine program, which is a non-surgical weight loss program. So I'm delighted to be here with you today.
Great, great. So and today we're going to talk a little bit about eating healthy and living healthy throughout the holiday period, which is always a daunting task. But I think in this
Yeah.
year in particular, it's even more so. So maybe we can start just by talking about, uh, pre-holiday, what you've been doing to stay healthy, in this sort of very, very challenging time.
Oh, well, absolutely. So I'm trying to practice as much as what I preach and walk the walk that I've been advising my patients, for sure. So certainly what I would suggest that everyone do is, and I'm doing the best that I can myself, is to try to exercise at least 20 to 25 minutes most days.
Hmm.
And try to, some days longer than others, but try to get your heart rate up. Possibly talk to someone like you, the cardiologist or a primary care doctor, about what target heart rates might be, so that you're getting a good level of physical activity, and also really focusing on making the diet that we're consuming well balanced. And also focusing on things like whole grains and plants. As much as possible, I'm trying to change my family to that, even though there's a little bit of resistance. But more than anything else, trying to find a moderation in the foods that we eat, and to choose foods that are
Yeah.
nourishing for us. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, so very similar. I have to tell you that I for a long time have been pretty regimented about an exercise regimen, and I think that
Yeah.
shortly after finishing training, I realized we had small kids in the house, and so I realized that going to the gym
Mhm.
for an hour and a half was not going to be possible, and so
Right.
I set up a very simple mat in my basement, and I do something called high intensity interval training,
Mhm.
which I can do, 365 days a year, so I
Mhm.
never have an excuse, and you never have to,
Good.
I think that that's the key. The other thing that I actually did a very long time ago, when I was a first year cardiology fellow, we had a very senior cardiologist. He was almost 80 at the time, and the office was on the 14th floor. His office was on the
Yeah.
14th floor, and he, from the day he had started in 1968 or whatever, he had walked up and down the 14 floors up and down at the beginning and the end of the day. And when you
Wow.
were a fellow, if you rounded with him, you also had to do the same. And
Mhm.
it's such a powerful thing to say, literally, like you said, walk the walk. And
Mhm.
that maybe added 5 minutes to his day, but 14 flights of stairs is serious now. So
Yeah.
I'm on the fourth floor, not on the 14th floor, and so
Sure.
but I do that as well. I try to park as high as I can in the parking garage, so I'm walking
Mhm.
up and down the stairs there, and then do the same in
Mhm.
in the office. So even if there's those days when the day gets away from you, you can't do anything. That I sort of I have been doing that for a long time. Now I think that the challenge though is that those kinds of what I call the sort of surreptitious exercise, the lucky moments to do exercise, they come few and far between now. So is there anything you've changed in your routine, because of the pandemic?
Absolutely. It's such a crazy time, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Everything's been impacted from sun up to sundown, and of course in between as well.
yeah,
So absolutely, exercising more within the home, and as you said, having a mat to do the exercises that you can do even in a small space and still maintain an elevated heart rate. Um, I enjoy running very much,
okay,
and I
yeah,
know that I may be in the minority, so I've often heard that. But when running, it's hard even to keep distance,
yeah,
So I try to find time, even really early on the weekends, to get out when there are fewer people out there, and of course, actually carrying a mask with me to put over my face should I have the unfortunate occurrence where I just can't get far enough away from people. But it's
yeah.
also encouraging my kids to stay
Hmm.
active. So they've seen me do indoor exercises, and they actually are starting to do 15 to 20-minute little bursts themselves. So
Oh, wow.
that's been that's been good for everybody.
That's
Helps keep
great.
them off of screens, you know.
Yeah, yeah, no, I
Um,
hear you. I hear you.
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
it's funny you say that. What we have been doing, so my kids, like we like Bollywood music, like the Indian dance music,
Excellent.
and
Yeah.
and so we've been doing these Bollywood dance breaks, and I as ridiculous as
Nice.
this sounds, my older daughter is 9 years old, and so at the very beginning of the pandemic, we decided to
Yeah.
make up a dance routine, which if everyone is nice, I'll post the YouTube later. And it's like a 2 minute dance routine, and it is exhausting. It's 2 minutes, but
Love
it's
it.
exhausting. And at the beginning of the pandemic, we just decided we're going to do it every day. And what happens is you do it once, and then you do it over and over and over again. And so there's these, and it's super fun, and
That's awesome.
the music, yeah, it was really great. So we had the Bollywood dance routine, and now like as you said, the kids have these like movement breaks, but I think
Hmm.
that's sort of a big part of it. So
Oh,
tell me,
that's.
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say that sounds like an incredible amount of fun. Can you find videos online that can teach you how to do this? Because I know nothing about that, but I would love to do
Uh,
that. Is that
yeah,
something you could look for? Okay.
yeah. So there are there's YouTube videos on Bollywood dancing, but I will also post my daughter has been asking me to post the video that we made together, so we can do our dance video if you
I'm in.
want.
I'm
Yeah,
so in.
that's awesome. So
Great.
tell me what you're gonna do for the holidays. Like Thanksgiving is coming up. We have potentially high calorie, high salt foods. You have
Sure.
any things that you do in your house that's sort of a way minimize the impact on health?
Absolutely. And it's been a transition. So I
Hmm.
like to think about things of eat this, not that, and try to make
Hmm.
it simple. And so, it's hard to say. I've got two kind of teenage kids here, and they like snacks. So
Yeah.
even, as the holidays are coming, they've got a couple of days off. So they, would love to have a bag of potato chips or something like
Hmm.
that. But what we're trying to move away from is eating more things like kale chips,
Yeah. Yeah.
than potato chips. It's still got the chip in it, still got a bit of crunch,
Yeah.
and the flavor and sort of the anticipation and the experience of eating a chip.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'm really trying to focus on is using, certainly there's going to be meat in our diet, but focusing more on things like legumes and vegetables and whole
Hmm.
grains. And that doesn't mean we can't have some of the things that we love and we associate with this holiday that's coming really soon. And what we're trying to do is move towards meat and
Hmm.
certain heavy calorie nutrition, not less dense nutrition foods as more as flavoring than as a
Yeah.
staple.
I think
So
it's
it's
great.
more like meat is not necessarily a corner of the plate, but it'll
Yeah.
go sliced on top of the plate, more as
Oh, interesting.
flavoring. Yeah.
I
Um,
like that actually. I like that sort of changing the frame of your plate. It's a really neat idea. So kale chip, that's our that's the jam in our house too.
nice.
And I don't know, we should like do a kale chip recipe challenge, because I feel like there's like
Yeah.
a million different ways to prepare it, and you can do it
Yeah.
great or you can do it terrible.
Yep.
So I'll tell you the two things that work for us, and then I'd love to hear what works for you. Is
Hmm.
one is we do roasted, so you do
Yep.
little olive oil, salt and pepper, roasting pan, I
Yep.
don't know, 350 degrees for whatever, 20 minutes. But the
Hmm.
more recent thing we've done, which has been amazing, is the air fryer. The air fryer has like air fried kale chips are better than potato chips. You're hearing it here on Facebook Live. It's 100% better
Hmm.
than and like it's kid approved too. Like if you give my kids a choice between kale chips made in the air fryer and potato chips, they pick kale chips every single
Love
time.
it.
It's just better. So what's your style?
So I love that. It's basically your first method, just in the
Yeah,
oven, and
yeah.
that's it. An air fryer's been on my list to
Oh yeah.
grab, but so you're putting me over the edge. We're gonna have to go with that.
Awesome.
But yeah, just
Yeah.
making sure that things are well prepared and they have a
Yeah.
little bit of time to dry before they go into the oven. Nothing too
Right.
spectacular, but the air fryer is a fantastic tool, and I'm
Yeah,
really
it's
glad that you
great.
brought that up. There are lots of ways to improve how we eat with
Hmm.
using a lot less oil,
Yeah.
and to help us get away from things like saturated fat. So That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What about you guys? What are you doing for the holiday to kind of make your holiday even healthier? What are you doing?
Right. Yes. My wife has a strong interest in like making food taste good and still stay healthy, and so she always has these like little things. It's never about, I think you were saying this. It's never about big changes, right? You're not like let's get rid of the turkey or let's not have mashed potatoes. It's just sort of small things in the way that you change what you eat to preserve the flavor, but still, make it healthier. And it's big, the things that most people know, instead of butter, using olive oil when possible, reducing the total amount of salt and exchanging salt for things like, pepper, oregano, other sort of flavorings that are not as risky for your health. And so that's really sort of the framing. And then the other thing my wife loves to do is inject salads into every meal. And so like
Awesome.
but like once you decide you're going to put a salad in every meal, you can't just do lettuce, tomatoes, onions, right? So she's got this 3-bean salad, which is 3 different types of beans and some onions and peppers, and it's delicious, and it's really healthy. I do this kale and strawberry salad. That's like my like you sort of just you expand the horizon, you add fruits and vegetables, and it becomes like it becomes like a place for creativity, and so we sort of we I think as you do, we eat in principles, so we say we're not going to give up everything that we love, but we're going to try to just change the frame so that it's a little bit less taxing on your body. And the other thing we do is we permit ourselves cheats, which I think is a really important part of, it's like, there has to be some pleasure in food that is pure pleasure. And I think that's okay. So we define what the cheat is. You can only have your cheat one meal on Fridays, or for Thanksgiving period, we say there's going to be one dessert that's real dessert, and so that's where we're okay with. So you sort of you define the limits of the excesses that you're going to have, and it makes it, like, I think, a little bit easier. So that's the mantra in our house. And like I said, we always eat in principles. We don't eat in very specific, because I think that the more you try to prescribe the specifics, the harder it becomes to actually enjoy your food. So
yeah, absolutely. And I really like that you brought up the variation on salads. The word salad sometimes just feels boring, right? People say, I had salad, but if you add things, like you said, strawberries, even citrus, one thing that I really enjoy putting on salads is actually nuts and seeds. And there's so much nutrition in those, and I think we kind of oftentimes are told that we've got to have meat as our protein source, but yet if we look to nuts and seeds and other stuff too, we can get some really excellent sources of protein with them too. So I love the salad mantra. I'm right there with you.
And actually the nuts it's a great point, because nuts can also add a lot of flavor to I think something like a salad, and make it filling. It can turn it into a meal. So what's your sort of nut or seed of choice? Do you have a specific, like, your go-to set that you use, or?
So I love almonds. I think almonds are fantastic. Try not to overdo the almonds. And I really enjoy sunflower seeds.
Interesting.
Maybe 2 of the more common responses, but those are two of my favorites. Now I certainly know we try to add different ones as well. So, but my kids both like pecans and walnuts. My son loves pistachios. And then, pine nuts are a tremendous treat when they're just sprinkled on top of salads. They actually, to me, they taste like butter. So it's almost like you're not cheating yourself on something. You're actually getting a tremendous amount of flavor. And you don't miss the other stuff so much. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the dessert part of things? I think that I have a huge sweet tooth, and so I'm always sort of balancing. Do you have a strategy for dessert in your house?
I wish I had a great answer on that one. I wish I had a great answer. So what I am trying to do is to substitute more nut-based milks for certain baking opportunities, if you will. My kids love baking, so they have really enjoyed trying new things and having bake-offs and things like that.
Cool.
But I think what I'm going to actually try for Thanksgiving, and I haven't settled on a recipe, is trying to make something like a dark chocolate mousse with a nut milk, rather than like a heavy something like a cow's milk that's more heavier and saturated fat, more with a nut-based milk. So I'm going to give that a try. I will let you know how it goes, but I'm excited to experiment.
I'd love to hear it. You know, it's funny. We have one of our primary care doctors is Angela Hsu. She's one of the primary care doctors in Tyson's, and she's a big baker. And so one of the things she does when we in non-pandemic times, we spend a lot of time with her, and she uses tahini, and sort of use as a thickening agent, and dark chocolate, and can make these sort of very healthy dairy-free desserts that are absolutely delicious and simple. They're not. I mean, they're not easy. I'm not a baker. I couldn't do it. but for people who bake, guys, I guess you got to try it. But for people who bake, I think it's a really great. It's a great thing to do. One other question I have for you. You said you're a runner, and so the time between between Thanksgiving and sort of the Christmas, New Year's holiday is like often a very cold time. There's so many things going on. It's sort of hard to find time to get outside. It's cold. Do you have a sort of a strategy for the in-between holiday period? Is there things that you do?
Oh, absolutely. I think to make exercise as convenient as possible, if you can find even a small space in your home or even in your yard, trying to do online exercise classes. And there's just a multitude of them out there to choose from, whether it's yoga, or you can find like a little bit of even a short boot camp to keep yourself focused for this roughly 30 or so days as we're experience a different kind of holiday busy, and also trying to keep ourselves fit. So trying to find the space that we have and maximize it as much as we can, and also keep our heart rate up in the right way. But I think that there's a lot to be said also for devices that help us exercise. And I think I heard that this was an area of interest and expertise for you. And so I've actually been really wanting to know what you like and what you recommend, and tell me.
Yeah, so we're talking about wearable fitness trackers. That is, I'm a technology guy, and so I've always kind of been into those as a way to help exercise. And I think that like the simplest way to think about sort of activity trackers in general are, one, you should pick one that you're going to wear, because there's lots of really, really fancy ones that people will just never wear, and so and it's not worth it. It should be part of your life. And then two, ideally you want to pick one where you can get a consistent sense of how much activity you're doing. And there are lots of different, I think, devices that work just fine. I have my Apple Watch. That's our family thing. My parents like their Fitbit, and that's their their preferred modality. So I think between the devices, there's not a lot of difference. But I think that if you use a device, the key thing is to remember that it's the device, even if it's not accurate, even if you look at it and says, I walked 50,000 steps. Why is it saying 30,000? It tends to be precise, which means day to day, it tells you a sense of how active you are. So if you are 10,000 steps today and you're 10,000 steps tomorrow, you probably did about the same amount of activity. And so I think that's actually the best way to use it. It tells you sort of a minimum threshold of activity that you're doing every day, and it reminds you when you're not meeting that threshold. It's also a great motivator if you're competitive, like I am, with your family members and friends, because I have a couple of friends, and we sort of share each other's data. And there's nothing more motivating for me to do a workout than when one of my friends has completed his workout and I'm sitting on the couch. Like that is the best motivator.
Nice.
Yeah, so the social aspect of a couple of the devices have them, and I think it's such a especially now when you're not seeing each other, it's a really powerful motivator to know that somebody else is finding time to exercise. And I think that that's a real, the sort of social network of health, I think, as I like to call it. And so, so I think those are the sort of basics. You know, there's lots of fancy gadgets that anyone can use if they want to, you know, have more health information, like the pulse oximeter or the heart rate monitor. You know, all those things are useful, but at its base, it's an activity tracker, and so I think that's the real value. So.
Oh, that's excellent. I like what you said about having workout buddies and helping to keep each other motivated. That is really, really, really important. Especially right now, you know, it's not like you can just gather with a group of people on a whim. You really have to be a little more focused about how you keep yourself in line, I guess.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
So, and then one last question I have. I think we're reaching the end of our time together, but one last question. I was curious what you're thinking about managing stress, because like holiday stress is common, and this year's holiday stress is extra. What are you doing to sort of, you know, help keep yourself calm, I guess?
Oh gosh, that's such an important question, and it's actually part of a conversation I have with so many patients. You know, almost every single visit. So what I tend to say, you know, very frequently is exercise is the best medicine. So dealing with stress, giving yourself, it doesn't have to be a run. It doesn't have to be a full exercise program, but even getting out and walking. So, you know, every morning, one of the things that starts my day is walking my dog. And I definitely will take that time to either put on the Calm app or a different meditation, or actually listen to the birds. I actually find a tremendous amount of calm in listening to the birds, and not that I really know which bird is which, but I find a lot of peace and serenity in doing that. And I think it's also important for us to take breaks during the day and give our eyes and our minds a rest from all of the screens. So finding time to even take 5 minutes to step away and to look at nature that's around us in whatever way that we can. And I do think that there is a lot to be said. You know, food is medicine, exercise is medicine, sleep is medicine. All of these things, our lifestyle really can be the best choices that we have for our health, and making sure that all those are balanced. How about you?
Well, it's interesting. It's a lot of the same thing. So the Calm map, I think, you know, as a Kaiser Permanente patient, you get the Calm app free, and like that. And that's the only reason I downloaded it, by the way. And it's actually awesome. It's really like it's, you know, it can give you little bits that you need to sort of get through your day. So I do use that. I also like what you're saying about giving yourself breaks. And, you know, I think that for me, I actually probably spend 75% of my time in the hospital, 60% of my time in the hospital. So I'm not like, my day didn't change that much with the pandemic, but my wife works from home. And so for her, she went from going to an office most days to like literally being in the house the whole day and sitting in front of a screen. And so she has done a really good job of identifying time in the morning and time in the evening and time during the day to sort of to separate and to sort of to find time for herself and to take walks, listen to nature. And I think that's so critical for your sanity, right? Like, you know, I think that you need moments that are quiet, that are yourself, that are not related to a screen. And so I think that I really love how you said that. So, yeah.
Well, excellent.
I
feel like, you know, we had a really nice conversation about how to look at food, how to look at activity, how to look at our mental health. I think all those components really can help guide us into this holiday time. I really can't wait to try the Bollywood. I really can't.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You just wait. Yeah. I'll send it to you. All right. Well. Yeah. Well. Thanks to everybody who joined us on Facebook Live, and thanks, Michele. Great conversation, and you know, we look forward to having maybe more of these as we look to New Year's resolutions. Maybe.
I like it. I like it. That sounds
That'll
awesome.
be our next. All right. Nice to see you. I'll talk to you guys all later. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.